we're going to initialize our project and also install the required npm modules. So what I have now is a folder that the front end and the back end folders are going to be hosted in. So this folder is called book app, and if I look in here, you can see there's nothing in here right now. What I'm going to do is open Visual Studio Code. It will go into there and create the parent folders for the back end and the front end. Then we'll go into the back end and start initializing that project. So I'm just going to open Visual Studio Code from here. So here we are in Visual Studio Code. What I'm going to do is now create our root folders. So the first one we're going to have is book app backend, and I'll just create another one, book app front end, and just put this in the root. All right. So if we go into here, we're going to create our main root files, and then we're going to create the subfolders, which are going to be API and models. So we have a few files that we're going to create. One is going to be our Server.js. We're also going to create the App.js. And we want our API folder, and as well we want a models folder. So we can, at this point, initialize this project. And I'm going to bring up the integrated terminal to do that. So I go to View, Integrated Terminal. There we are. And if I ls this, we can see where we are. So I want to go ahead and cd into the book app backend. Ls that, we can see we've got our files there. So I'm going to do an npm init. We'll get our package.json. And I'm just going to go ahead, click through all of these, and then we'll get our initialization. You'll see their package.json is appearing now. So at this point, we can go ahead and start installing the various modules. So let's go ahead and start with the Express module. This is going to be for parsing the body requests that come in. So we'll do that with an npm install save express. Let that go, and we'll see that get entered into our package.json. So there we are. Okay, so now we're going to do the Bcrypt, which is going to encrypt our passwords. So let's just bring this up. And for this package, this is Bcrypt. And if I spell it right, that may help a little bit. So there's no Y there, just Bcrypt. All right, and so you can see that package is now listed also under our dependencies in the package JSON. So we have another one we're going to do, which is the JSON web token. So for this package, it's a web token that you get after a successful logon. And I'm going to bring up our commands here. So what we want to do here is JSON web token. All right, so you can see that one is now inside of our package JSON. Going to bring up the command. We're going to install a couple more here. So we have Mongoose. This is our interaction with MongoDB Atlas. All right, and then the last one is called Morgan, which is, this is an AN, going to be used for logging. All right, so actually there's one more. So I mentioned the Express was part of the request parsing, and that was not right, because actually that is called body parser. And run that. So we have body parser getting installed now. The Express that we installed earlier is actually a minimalist web framework. So the way that Express describes itself is fast, unopinionated, minimalist web framework for Node.js. So we are going to make use of that to help with our building out of the application. So we have a number of tools we've installed now, and that should be everything that we're going to be using as far as the modules. So now we've got our project initialized, we've got our modules installed, and the next thing we're going to do is start building out our server file and our app file as well. So we have these two files here in the root. That's what we're going to work on in our next lesson. We're going to build our server file and our app file. So what we're going to do first is import our HTTP We saw this earlier when we were doing our node server test. I'm going to declare this as a constant because we're not going to be changing it. So we're going to do a require on HTTP. So basically our functionality for the server. We're also going to import our app file. So for that, we'll also have a constant. App going to be another require. So this file obviously is not built out yet. We will be working on that. And just go ahead and terminate this one. Okay, so what we want to do next is to create a port for us to listen on. So we're going to be assigning a port to the server, and that's going to be the one we're going to run on. This is going to be part of the process.environment.port. And the way it's structured, we're going to assign it into a constant. It's structured as an environment variable with a port number. So basically we have an environment variable running around. We can change, and that will change the port that everything will listen on. So here's how we're going to create it. This is called port, and we want process. You can see we're getting the hints on these things here, and this is port. And we are going to do a double pipe for this to listen on, 3000. All right, so next we're going to create a server. So we've seen this before. And when we create the server, we have a parameter that we can pass something into. That's what we're going to do with app. Then we'll break it down a little bit more and do our listen, and port will go into listen. So a little bit more advanced than what we were doing earlier when we created these. So you'll see how we basically break them down into their parts and make better use of variables this time around. So this is actually going to be called server, and we're going to do an HTTP create server, and app will go into that. Now we want to listen, so we're just going to do server, and this is going to be listen port. Save that. So that completes what we need to do inside of our server file. Now we move into the app. So what we're going to do here is start pulling in a number of the modules that we're going to be making use of. So the first thing we're going to do, create a constant for express, and just require express. And next we're going to go ahead and execute this. So we'll create a constant called app, and we're going to call it express. And we want to pull in our routing. So we haven't set up routing yet. What we're doing here is just going to set the routing up for the book.js route, that route file. So we'll create a constant. This is called book routes. And we have to create those. So that'll be coming a little bit later. So we have our API folder in there. We're going to have a folder for routes, and then we'll have our books. So we're going to continue with the importing of some routes we're going to do for user next. So we'll have a constant. This is going to be user routes, just following the same kind of format. And then we'll go ahead and reach down into the folder structure for user. We can push these together. All right, and so next what we're going to do is bring in body parser. So we have a constant body parser, and that's also require directly to the module name. We can pull in Morgan. So these will be used, or they can be used in different places throughout the app. So that's why we're doing this kind of setup. Okay, so next we have Mongoose. Just remove an extra space. And then after Mongoose, we are going to connect to MongoDB, although we're not going to do it yet, but we'll go ahead and put this here, and we'll have to come back and finish that up. Okay, so for Morgan, we're going to go ahead and supply a parameter called dev. So there are some tokens of different kind of string formats you want to use. So we're going to keep things simple and use a dev token. There's like tiny other ones like that. So for any of these packages, you can go to the NPM website and search on the package and read about the different options that are available. You can see here some of the ones for Morgan. and that will give you more details on how to use them, but we're just going to use dev, and that's going to suffice for everything that we're going to need. All right, so now we're going to do body parser. This is basically setting up a lot of the middleware and telling the app which kind of data we're parsing. So here comes body parser, make use of our variable. We want to do a URL encoded, and that's going to take some parameters. This is a key value pair, so I'm bringing these braces in. What we want is extended. I'm going to put a colon, so key, then the value is false. Two parentheses to close that out. And so what we have with extended is that it's one of the options you can pass into here, and basically it allows you to choose between parsing the URL encoded data with the query string library. So for the kind of query strings we want to parse, this is what we're going to use. And that's set up with the false. So that makes all of that possible. And next, we need another call to body parser JSON, just so that things are executed. Save that. Okay, so that sets up our app. We have to come back at some point and fill this in. Actually, we can go ahead and get that now and fill that in. So what I will do is go out to the Atlas website, and you can see how I grabbed that query string. Okay, so here's the MongoDB website. I'm going to go ahead and log on, and now I'm inside of my cluster. So when I log on, it brings me right into here. For some reason, you're not at this location. Remember how the hierarchy works. You have your organization, so click on that. You'll go in, you'll have a project. It should just be the one. You'll click that, and then inside the project, you'll have the clusters. So what I want is connect, and then I scroll down, connect your application. I'm using the driver 3.4 earlier, and I can just copy this. Got to remember my password, and now I'll go back to Visual Studio Code. All right, so I'll paste this in here, and of course, you'll want to put in the right password for that. And then all of this is going to go in single quotes like that. And that should make all of that happy. Save that. Okay, so now that completes our server and our app setups. And from here, we can start moving into creating some of the files we're going to be using in our API and our models subfolders.